No one expected her Christmas to begin with a loss that could shatter every dream she'd ever held. Until a hidden secret on a farm about to be sold threw Emily Hart into a choice that could save everything she loved, or take it all away forever. Something was about to change. And once it did, nothing in her life would ever be the same again. In the quiet little coastal town of Pine Hollow, that cold December morning, Emily believed nothing could surprise her anymore. Until she knocked on the door of a man who'd forgotten what Christmas truly meant. And that was the moment everything began. Before we continue, tell me, where are you listening from? And of course, make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss a single chapter. The coastal town of Pine Hollow, nestled between the gentle hills of the Pacific Northwest, always breathed Christmas long before December arrived. The streets glowed with warm golden lights that looked like floating candle flames. Local bakeries filled the cold morning air with the faint smell of cinnamon-dusted French toast, and families decorated their porches with handcrafted nativity scenes as if protecting tiny worlds made of love. In the middle of all this lived Emily Hart, a 30-year-old artisan who had inherited not only her mother's small knitting shop, but also her gift for turning yarn, fiber, and fabric into pure emotion. Her Christmas sweaters weren't just garments, people said they felt like memories. Every stitch carried a story that words alone could never fully explain. But that December held a bitter taste. The boutique that usually bought her pieces had cancelled every single order without warning. They claimed the yarn was the problem, a batch from a single supplier, North Star Ranch, a family-run farm known for producing the softest alpaca fiber in the region. It felt like everything Emily held together with both hands had slipped through her fingers all at once. Standing alone inside her silent store, she gazed at the finished sweaters, deep reds, snowy whites, evergreen tones, and especially one, a soft blue sweater inspired by the Christmas morning sky she and her mother used to admire together. That blue felt endless, calming and aching at the same time. Emily pressed the sweater gently to her chest. "I'm not letting this Christmas pass like nothing matters," she whispered to herself. There was something she had never dared to do. Drive to North Star Ranch and speak directly to the owner, Michael Dawson. Michael was known in town as reserved, almost unreachable. After losing his wife, Lauren, 2 years earlier, he'd withdrawn even more. He ran the ranch alone while raising their little girl, Lily, and rarely joined community events. People said he carried a sadness so heavy that time itself couldn't ease it. And now, North Star Ranch, once a symbol of tradition and prosperity, was at risk of being sold. That thought ached inside Emily. Since childhood, she had dreamed of creating a true partnership with that family, whose alpaca fiber had always been the most delicate in the state. Holding the blue sweater tight, she decided, "I'm going there. Even if all I get is a no. The road to the ranch was lined with towering pines that stretched toward the sky. When Emily parked in front of the large wooden gate, her heart jumped. North Star Ranch was even more beautiful than she'd imagined. Wide fields stretched out endlessly. Alpacas strolled lazily beneath the pale winter sun, their white and caramel coats scattered like tiny clouds drifting across the land. The main barn, painted in a weathered rustic red, had wooden star ornaments hanging from its beams, some old, some freshly carved. Emily walked toward the entrance, her nerves and admiration tangled inside her chest. That's when she saw him. Michael was pushing a cart loaded with bales of hay, the sleeves of his flannel shirt rolled to his elbows. His dark hair was tousled by the wind, and he carried the expression of someone used to holding more weight than he should. He was handsome, but there was something fractured in him, as if a part of him had remained trapped in the past. When he noticed her, he stopped. "Morning. Can I help you?" His voice was firm, but gentle, and cautious. Emily held the blue sweater as if it were a shield. "My name's Emily Hart. I'm a knitwear designer. I use your ranch's alpaca fiber in my work. I came because I think maybe we can help each other." Michael frowned. If this is about cancelled contracts, I've heard enough promises. Emily swallowed hard. This wasn't going to be easy. It's not just that, she said softly, lifting the sweater. I made this piece with your fiber. And I wanted you to see it. Michael took the sweater carefully, almost reverently. The blue yarn caught the golden morning light, and for a moment he drifted somewhere far away, to a place only he could see. It's beautiful, he whispered. Really beautiful. But I don't know what I can do now. The ranch is in trouble. And I can't risk anything else. Emily steadied her breath. Michael. I know things are hard. And I know this ranch is more than fields and animals. It's history. It's legacy. It's family. He looked at her sharply, surprised she had struck the exact place that still hurt. I'm willing to work here, she continued. To learn. To help for real. I want to create a special Christmas collection using your fiber, 100% local, 100% sustainable. And I want to help you reach buyers who appreciate that. Michael said nothing. A gentle breeze swept through the ranch, making the wooden stars on the barn chime with a soft, delicate sound, almost magical. Then a small voice echoed behind him. Daddy? Who's that? A small girl stood in the doorway, wearing a slightly crooked red beanie and clutching a stuffed alpaca against her chest. Her name was Lily, and though her smile was soft and sweet, there was a quiet sadness behind her eyes, the kind a child shouldn't have to carry. Emily turned toward her and immediately lowered herself to the girl's height. Hi there, she said gently. I'm Emily. I make Christmas sweaters. Lily's face lit up instantly, bright as a Christmas tree turning on for the first time. Christmas sweaters? Really? Emily nodded with a warm smile. Michael watched the exchange silently, something flickering in his expression, a memory, maybe, or the unfamiliar feeling of seeing his daughter genuinely excited again. Emily rose to her feet. I know this won't be easy, she said softly. But let me try. Let me prove that it's still worth fighting for the things that matter. Especially at Christmas. Michael's jaw tightened. He looked at the ground, then at the sky, then at the sweater in his hands, that deep, peaceful blue that felt like hope stitched into fabric. Finally, he exhaled. You have until midnight on Christmas Eve, he said. If, by then, you can convince me this could actually work, then I'll agree to partner with you. Emily's heart opened like a window letting winter light back in. Then we start today. Lily clapped her hands together, thrilled. And there, between the rolling hills and the alpacas wandering across the frosted fields, something new began, quietly, tenderly, thread by thread. A story of healing. A story of courage. A story of Christmas. Emily's first morning at North Star Ranch started long before sunrise. She woke in the small guest cottage Michael had lent her, a cozy little place with white walls and a window that framed the fields like a painting. Outside, the world was still dark. She could hear only the whisper of wind through the pines and the distant hum of alpacas shifting in the quiet. She bundled herself in a thick wool sweater and stepped into the cold. Michael was already in the barn, sleeves rolled up, moving through the space with practiced focus. He checked feeders, filled water buckets, and greeted each alpaca with a gentle touch on the muzzle, a routine so tender it felt almost sacred. Good morning, Emily said softly. He turned, surprised. You're really starting now? Time's the last thing we can afford to waste. A faint smile tugged at the corner of Michael's mouth, the kind of smile that appeared only when he couldn't quite hide it fast enough. All right then, he said, grabbing a pair of gloves from a hook on the wall. Let me show you how things work around here. They walked deeper into the barn. The air was crisp, carrying the soft scent of hay and warm wool. The alpacas lifted their heads curiously as Emily passed, their gentle dark eyes blinking like sleepy stars. Michael moved with calm, practiced precision. He stacked hay, checked temperatures, and adjusted heat lamps, all while explaining every step as if it were second nature. Emily followed closely, absorbing everything, the sounds, the rhythm, the quiet tenderness Michael hid beneath his stoic expression. "These animals, they know things," he said quietly, brushing an alpaca's neck with the back of his hand. "When you're stressed. When you're tired. When your heart's heavy. They feel it." Emily watched him, sensing the weight behind his words. "And they comfort you?" she asked softly. "Sometimes more than people ever could." For a moment, the barn felt warmer. Michael then showed her how to separate the fleece by softness and length. How to check each alpaca's coat gently, respectfully. How to handle the fiber with care, like something fragile, something valuable. "You're a natural," he said after a while, almost surprised by his own words. Emily blushed slightly. "I've worked with yarn my whole life. But seeing where it actually comes from, that's different. It feels alive." He nodded. "That's because it is." Outside, the first rays of morning light broke over the snowy fields, casting long golden stripes across the ground. Emily paused, watching the sun transform the world into something glowing and hopeful. Michael noticed the way she was staring. "Not many people stop to look," he said. Emily smiled softly. "Then they're missing the most beautiful part of the day." Michael said nothing, but something shifted in his expression, something subtle, unspoken, warming. Before either of them could continue, a familiar voice called out. "Daddy." Lily ran across the porch, still wearing her little red beanie, her cheeks flushed from waking up. She ran straight into Emily's arms as if she'd known her forever. "You're still here," Lily said, beaming. Emily laughed lightly. "Of course I am. I promised I'd help, didn't I?" Michael froze for a second, watching them, his daughter hugging someone without hesitation, without fear. It had been a long time since that happened. He cleared his throat. "We should get breakfast started." Emily nodded. "Let me cook." "A thank you for showing me the ropes." Lily gasped. "Can we have cinnamon pancakes?" "Daddy makes them but they taste like, sadness." Emily burst into laughter. Michael covered his face with one hand. "Thanks, Lil. Really appreciate that." Inside the kitchen, Emily moved with easy confidence, gathering ingredients while Lily chatted nonstop beside her, asking questions, telling stories, announcing her favorite alpaca every 5 minutes. Michael leaned against the counter, arms crossed, watching. And for the first time in a very long time, his kitchen felt like home. Emily flipped pancakes, sprinkled cinnamon sugar, drizzled warm syrup over the top. They sat together at the small wooden table, the three of them, and Lily devoured her pancakes with the joy only a child can show. "This," Lily said with her mouth full, "tastes like Christmas." Emily's heart swelled. Michael looked down at his plate, then at Emily, then at his daughter. And the truth hit him quietly. They were a picture he thought he would never see again. The days that followed moved like a carefully choreographed dance. Emily arrived each morning before dawn, and Michael was always already there, waiting, as if he'd been counting the hours. They worked side by side in the barn, their movements becoming synchronized, their conversations deepening with each passing day. She learned the names of every alpaca. Duchess, the matriarch with the softest fleece. Storm, the stubborn male who only listened to Michael. Whisper, the shy one who needed extra patience and gentle hands. And Michael learned things about Emily too. That she hummed while working. That she took her coffee black but her tea with honey. That she had a scar on her left wrist from a childhood accident, and that she traced it when she was thinking deeply about something. On the 10th day, Michael finally asked, "Why did you really come here, Emily?" They were sitting on the porch after sunset, watching the alpacas settle into the pasture for the night. Lily was inside, asleep, her small form curled up with her stuffed alpaca. Emily was quiet for a long moment. "My mother died 2 years ago," she said softly. "She owned the knitting shop. She taught me everything, not just about yarn and needles, but about how to put love into every stitch." Michael listened without interrupting. "After she passed, the shop felt empty. I kept working, kept designing, but it was like going through the motions. Like I was just surviving, not living." She looked at him. "Then I heard about your ranch. About how your family had been producing fiber for generations. About how you were about to lose it all. And something inside me just broke open. Because I realized I wasn't the only one who'd forgotten how to believe." Michael reached over and took her hand. "I'm glad you came," he said quietly. "Me too," Emily whispered. But the peace was fragile. On the 12th day of December, Michael received a phone call that changed everything. It was from Margaret Ashford, his ex-mother-in-law. "Michael, darling," her voice came through, sweet but laced with venom. "We need to talk about Lily. And about your future." Michael felt his stomach drop. "Margaret, we've been through this." "We have, but you didn't listen." "I'm in town. I'm coming to the ranch. I have a proposal that could change everything." When Margaret arrived, it was like a shadow had entered the house. She was a woman in her late 50s, impeccably dressed, moving through the space as if she owned it. Her smile never reached her eyes. "Michael, sweetheart," she said, kissing his cheek. "Look at this place. Look at what you've let it become." Then she saw Emily. "And who is this?" "I'm Emily Hart. I work with Michael on the ranch." Margaret examined her from head to toe, her gaze sharp as a blade. "Ah, yes. The local artisan. Well, dear, don't get any ideas. This is a temporary arrangement. Michael needs real stability. Real opportunity." She settled into the living room as if it were her throne. "I've spoken with my husband. We're prepared to purchase the ranch at a very generous price. You could relocate to Boston, work with us, and Lily would have the best education, the best opportunities. Private schools. Universities abroad. Everything." Michael tensed. "Margaret, I already told you. I'm not selling." "Aren't you?" she asked, her smile cold. "Not even for Lily?" "Because, sweetheart, a struggling ranch isn't a future. It's a prison." She pulled out a folder from her designer bag. Inside were documents, numbers, financial projections. "Look, dear," she said, turning to Emily. "The ranch is hemorrhaging money. Michael owes suppliers. The equipment is ancient. One bad season and everything collapses. Is that really what you want for Lily?" Emily felt the weight of those words settle over the room like fog. But she didn't flinch. "With respect, Mrs. Ashford," Emily said calmly, "what Lily needs isn't money or prestige. She needs her father. She needs to see him fighting for something he believes in. She needs to know that love and purpose matter more than comfort." Margaret's expression hardened. How touching. But naive. She turned back to Michael. "Think about it. I'll be in town through Christmas. The offer stands until December 24th at midnight. After she left, Michael sat in silence for a long time. Emily could see the doubt creeping back into his eyes, the fear that maybe Margaret was right. Maybe he was being selfish. Maybe he should take the money and give Lily security. Don't, Emily said quietly. Don't what? Don't let her plant that seed of doubt. Because I've seen what you're building here, Michael. I've felt it. Lily feels it. This ranch, this life, it's real. It matters. Michael looked at her, searching her face. How can you be so sure? Because, Emily said, stepping closer, I came here broken. And you're helping me heal. That's not nothing. That's everything. She took his hand. Trust me. Please. Michael wanted to. God, he wanted to. But the fear was still there, whispering in the dark. On the 13th day, Emily made a decision. While Michael was working in the far pasture with the alpacas, she sat down at her laptop and did something she'd been thinking about for days. She photographed every sweater she'd created using Northstar Ranch's fiber. She wrote descriptions that captured not just the quality of the work, but the story behind it. The family legacy. The sustainable practices. The love woven into every stitch. And she sent it all to a contact she'd met at a fiber arts conference months ago, Hugo Clemington, owner of the largest sustainable fashion retail network in North America. Stores in New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, Miami, and a dozen other cities. She wrote in the email. These sweaters aren't just products. They're stories. They're proof that luxury and sustainability can exist together. They're proof that family businesses still matter. I hope you'll consider them for your collections. Then she hit send. And waited. That evening, as Emily and Michael sat on the porch watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of amber and rose, his phone buzzed. An email notification. From Hugo Clemington. Michael's hands trembled as he read it. Ms. Hart, your sweaters are exceptional. I'd like to discuss an exclusive partnership with Northstar Ranch. Please call me at your earliest convenience. This could be significant. Michael looked at Emily, his eyes wide. Did you? I believed in you, Emily said simply. I just helped the world see what I already knew. Michael pulled her into his arms, lifting her off the ground, spinning her around while Lily watched from the window, clapping her hands in delight. For the first time in years, Michael allowed himself to hope. The next morning, Michael called Hugo Clemington. The conversation lasted 45 minutes, and by the end, Michael's hands were shaking. Hugo wasn't just interested. He was excited. Your sweaters represent something the market is desperately searching for, Hugo said, his voice carrying the confidence of someone who'd built an empire. Authenticity. Sustainability. Soul. Most designers have lost that. You haven't. So, what are you proposing? Michael asked, hardly daring to breathe. I want exclusivity on your alpaca fiber production for the next 2 years. I want Emily Hart as our exclusive designer for the Northstar collection. And I want to launch this officially on December 26th with a press release that positions you as the new face of sustainable luxury fashion. Michael looked at Emily, who was standing in the doorway, her hand over her mouth. That's a lot, Michael said slowly. It is. But you're worth it. Your story is worth it. And frankly, the world needs more businesses like yours. More families willing to do things the right way. After they hung up, Michael and Emily stood in stunned silence. Then Lily ran in from the living room. did something good happen? You look like you're about to cry, Daddy. Michael scooped her up and spun her around. Something really good happened, sweetheart. The next 7 days were a controlled chaos. Emily and Michael worked from dawn until well past midnight, creating sweaters at a pace that felt almost impossible. They sketched designs, selected fibers, dyed wool in rich jewel tones, deep crimsons, forest greens, midnight blues, and that signature sky blue that had started everything. Lily helped where she could, organizing thread colors, preparing packaging, being the small magical force that kept everything moving forward. On the 3rd day of production, Emily's hands started to cramp. Michael noticed and gently took the needles from her. Rest, he said. Just for an hour. We don't have time. We'll make time. He led her to the porch, wrapped a blanket around her shoulders, and sat beside her while the winter sun began its descent. Do you ever regret coming here? He asked quietly. Emily looked at him, surprised by the question. Not for a single second. You? No, Michael said. But I'm terrified. Of what? That this will all disappear. That I'll wake up and realize it was just a dream. That you'll realize what you've gotten yourself into and leave. Emily took his hand. Michael, I'm not going anywhere. I came here to save a business, but I stayed because I found something I didn't even know I was looking for. What's that? Home, she whispered. I found home. Michael kissed her then, not urgently, but tenderly, like a promise being made in the quiet of the afternoon. By December 24th, all 80 sweaters were complete. They were works of art. Each one told a story. Each one carried the weight of love, the precision of craft, the soul of a family business that refused to die. Emily and Michael packed them carefully, with handwritten notes explaining the journey of each piece. The story of North Star Ranch. The story of Michael and Sarah. The story of a second chance. As they worked, Michael suddenly stopped. Emily. I need to ask you something. She looked up from the box she was packing. What? Michael reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Emily's breath caught. I know this is fast. I know we've only known each other for 2 weeks. But I also know that some things don't need time to be real. Some things just are. He opened the box to reveal a simple but elegant ring, white gold with a modest diamond that caught the light like a tiny star. Emily Hart, will you marry me? Emily couldn't speak. She could only nod, tears streaming down her face. Michael slipped the ring onto her finger, and when he kissed her, it felt like the entire universe had shifted into place. From the doorway, Lily watched and clapped her hands. Does this mean Clara's staying forever? She asked. Michael and Emily laughed through their tears. Yes, baby, Michael said. She's staying forever. The North Star Ranch had been transformed. Emily had decorated every corner with care, garlands made from the alpaca's own fiber, warm golden lights strung through the trees, handmade nativity scenes placed strategically around the property. The local community had been invited. Mrs. Chen, the town's best weaver. Father Marcus, who'd known the family for decades. Neighbors who'd watched the ranch nearly disappear. Everyone came to celebrate. When midnight approached, Michael asked for silence. I want to thank everyone for being here, he began, his voice emotional. A few weeks ago, I was ready to give up. On everything. On this ranch. On my dreams. On life itself. He looked at Emily. But then someone arrived and showed me that it was still worth fighting. That there was still reason to believe. He took Emily's hand and lifted her gently. "I'm announcing that Emily and I are getting married. And that, effective immediately, she's my official partner in Northstar Ranch. Together, we're going to create a sustainable fashion brand that shows the world you can do business with heart." The community erupted in applause and cheers. Lily ran around them, shouting, "Emily's going to be my mom. Emily's going to be my mom." And Emily, hearing those words, felt something shift inside her chest, a sense of belonging she'd searched for her entire life. Later, when most guests had left, the three of them sat on the porch, watching the stars. Lily was asleep between them, holding one of the sweaters Emily had made specially for her, a soft pink with delicate snowflake patterns. "Do you think Sarah would be happy?" Emily asked Michael softly. Michael looked at his sleeping daughter, then at Emily. "I know she would. Sarah always said life was made of moments. And that the best moments were the ones shared with people you love." He squeezed Emily's hand. "This is one of those moments." Emily rested her head on his shoulder, and they sat in comfortable silence, just appreciating the perfection of that instant. The alpacas rested peacefully in the fields below. The stars burned bright above. And for the first time in years, Michael's heart felt whole again. 5 years had passed since that cold December morning when Emily knocked on the door of Northstar Ranch. The ranch had transformed into a destination known throughout North America. Not a place of ostentatious luxury, but of genuine luxury, the kind that comes from products made with love, with sustainability, with purpose. Emily's sweaters were sold in boutiques across the country. But more importantly, each piece carried with it the story of the ranch, the story of Michael and Emily, the story of a Christmas that changed everything. Lily, now a teenager, helped her mother with designs. She had inherited talent from both Emily and Michael, a natural eye for color, an instinct for what made people feel something when they wore her creations. And Sophie, their daughter born 3 years ago on Christmas morning, grew up surrounded by alpacas, creativity, and a love that was visible in every gesture, every word, every moment. On Christmas Eve of that year, the family stood on the porch of the ranch house, watching the sunset paint the sky in impossible colors. Michael held Emily close around the waist. Lily stood beside them, holding Sophie's hand. And the alpacas, as always, rested peacefully in the fields. The barn had been expanded. A small showroom now stood where visitors could learn about the production process, from shearing to the final stitch. A second building housed Emily's design studio, where she worked on new collections while overlooking the pastures. The community had grown around them. Local artisans now worked with Northstar Ranch, creating a small ecosystem of sustainable craftspeople. The town of Pine Hollow had become known as a destination for ethical fashion. But none of that mattered as much as this moment. "Do you ever regret it?" Michael asked Emily, the same question he'd asked 5 years ago. "Leaving the big city life?" Emily smiled, that smile Michael had learned to love more than anything in the world. "Never. Because I discovered that a big life isn't about the size of the place. It's about the size of the love you feel. And here, I have everything." Michael kissed her softly. And in that moment, under the stars of Pine Hollow, surrounded by the love of a family they'd built with their own hands, they understood something that many people spend their entire lives searching for. They had found home. Not a place. A feeling. Being with the right people, doing the right work, at the right time. It was magic. It was Christmas. It was love. And it was forever. A decade had passed. Northstar Ranch was now featured in major fashion magazines. Emily's sustainable sweater collections had won awards. Michael had been invited to speak at conferences about family businesses and ethical production. But the most important thing was simpler than all of that. On Christmas Eve, the entire family gathered in the main house: Michael and Emily, Lily, now in college studying fashion design, Sophie, 10 years old and already helping in the studio, and James, their youngest, born 2 years ago. The walls were decorated with photos from the past decade. Pictures of the family. Pictures of the alpacas. Pictures of community events and celebrations. Emily stood in the kitchen, preparing the Christmas dinner while Michael and the kids set the table. Through the window, she could see the snow beginning to fall, gentle, quiet, perfect. She thought about her mother. About how she'd always said that the best things in life were made with your hands and your heart. Emily had learned that lesson well. Every sweater she created carried her mother's spirit. Every design was an act of love. Every stitch was a prayer. When they sat down to eat, Michael raised his glass. To family, he said. To second chances. To believing that life can be better, even when everything seems impossible. To Christmas, Emily added, and to the magic of showing up for the people you love. The children raised their glasses of cider and juice, laughing. And as they ate together, as they told stories and laughed and held each other close, they all felt it, that ineffable sense that they were exactly where they were supposed to be. That they had found something most people only dream about. Home. Not a place on a map. But a feeling in your chest when you're surrounded by people who love you unconditionally. A feeling that says, you belong here. You are safe. You are loved. That was North Star Ranch. That was their Christmas. That was their life. And it was, in every way that mattered, perfect. And so, between late snow, unexpected encounters, and a love that was woven thread by thread, their journey comes to an end, but the emotion lingers with us far longer than the story itself. If your heart warmed at any moment during this tale, I invite you with genuine warmth to subscribe to this channel. Here, each week brings new stories filled with love, triumph, and that magic that only deep narratives can awaken. And if this story touched you, share it with someone special. Maybe it's exactly the kind of comfort that person needs today. Now tell me in the comments, which part of this story moved you the most? Was it a gesture of love? A moment of courage? Or that emotional turn you didn't see coming? I'd love to read your answer. Thank you for being here, and until the next story.